You didn't find this message by accident. This moment right here, right now, has been divinely arranged. The timing, the stirring in your heart, even the questions you've been carrying, none of it is random. The Lord has led you here because He has something sacred to remind you of something He's been whispering into your spirit all along. There are things that God has entrusted to you, quiet truths, holy visions, unspoken dreams that were never meant to be shared with just anyone. Not because they're meant to be hidden forever, but because they're still being formed, still being protected, still being refined by the hands of the Almighty. You've likely felt it before. The sting of sharing too much too soon. Maybe you spoke of a dream God placed in your heart, only to watch it wither under the weight of someone else's doubt, jealousy, or misunderstanding. But let this truth settle in your soul. Do not give what is holy to dogs. Do not throw your pearls before swine, or they may trample them under their feet and turn and tear you to pieces. Matthew 7-6. This isn't about fear. It's about wisdom, about honoring the sacred timing of heaven, about protecting the seeds God has planted in you until they're ready to bloom. If something inside you is stirring right now, if your spirit recognizes this message as your own, then you are exactly where you're meant to be. Chosen one. This word is for you. Now, as you step forward into this divine role, I invite you to declare your readiness. Type Amen in the comments below as a sign of your acceptance, as a bold statement that you are ready to walk in wisdom, in timing, and in quiet strength. And stay with me until the very end, because we'll close with a powerful prayer to seal this message and protect what God has placed in you. Let's begin. Chosen one, consider this carefully. Have there been seasons in your life when resistance appeared without warning, doors closing suddenly, plans unraveling without explanation, or people you once trusted becoming sources of pain? At times, it may have felt as though unseen forces were pressing against you, targeting you in ways that felt deeply personal. These moments are not meaningless, and they are not signs of failure. Often, they point to a spiritual reality many do not recognize. The presence of divine favor attracts both refinement and resistance. The Lord, in His wisdom, entrusts certain people with truths that are not meant for public display. These truths are not ordinary ideas or fleeting inspirations. They are sacred deposits, fragments of a greater purpose that the Almighty unfolds gradually. When God places something holy within a person, He does so with intention, knowing that not every heart is prepared to receive or honor it. Scripture reminds us, the Lord confides in those who fear Him. He makes His covenant known to them. Psalm 25-14. This confiding is intimate, selective, and purposeful. There is a profound difference between openness and wisdom. Silence, when guided by God, is not avoidance, it is protection. When sacred insight is released too early or entrusted to the wrong audience, it can be misunderstood, dismissed, or even turned against the one who carries it. Many have experienced the quiet grief of sharing a God-given vision, only to feel its strength weaken under doubt or criticism. Such moments wound not because the vision was wrong, but because it was exposed before its appointed time. The Scriptures offer a powerful illustration through the life of Hannah. For years, she carried her anguish and her hope in silence, pouring her heart out before the Lord alone. Those who observed her misunderstood her posture and judged her incorrectly, yet God saw her sincerity. In time, what she carried privately was answered publicly through the birth of Samuel, a prophet set apart for God's purpose. 1 Samuel 1. Her restraint was not weakness, it was faith anchored in trust. Spiritual truths are like seeds planted by the hand of God. They require stillness, patience, and protection beneath the surface before they emerge. Ecclesiastes reminds us, There is a time to be silent and a time to speak. Ecclesiastes 3-7. Discerning that time is part of spiritual maturity. Guarding what God has placed within you does not mean withdrawing from the world. It means honoring divine timing over human urgency. The Lord calls His chosen ones to walk with intention, to weigh their words, and to recognize that not all understanding comes from being seen or heard. Some purposes are strengthened in quiet places. Some victories are secured long before they are visible. And often, what God protects most carefully is what He intends to use most powerfully. This wisdom does not restrict your journey, it preserves it. By guarding what is sacred, you allow God's design to unfold without interference, aligned with His will and sustained by His grace. If your spirit has begun to understand the sacred weight of what God entrusts to His chosen ones, then it's time to go deeper. The truth is, carrying divine revelation is not a light responsibility, it is a spiritual assignment that few around you will fully comprehend. There is a depth to your calling, and with that depth comes the need for divine discretion. God never places precious things in our care without intention. What He plants within you, whether a vision, a conviction, or a quiet promise, is not meant for public display, especially not before its time. In this way, the spiritual insights you receive are not simply messages, they are armor. They form part of the unseen protection surrounding your purpose. And when these sacred things are revealed carelessly, even with good intentions, that armor can be compromised. The Apostle Paul wrote, "Put on the full armor of God, so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes." Ephesians 6:11. This armor isn't only for warfare, it's a covering, a spiritual safeguard for everything the Lord has entrusted to you. To uncover too much is to loosen that covering, allowing entry points for confusion, discouragement, or even spiritual opposition. Many have experienced this without realizing it. A moment of excitement leads to an eager conversation, a shared vision, a personal revelation spoken aloud, and suddenly, resistance arises. Plans stall. Encouragement fades. The energy shifts. These are not random patterns, they are warnings. What is holy must be guarded, because not every heart is equipped to receive what heaven has whispered to yours. Remember the prophet Daniel, who received visions that were sealed for a time appointed by God. In Daniel 12:4, the Lord instructed, "But you, Daniel, shut up the words and seal the book until the time of the end." Even Daniel, a man greatly loved by God, was told to hold back, to wait, to protect what had been revealed. Why? Because revelation has a season, and divine timing is everything. God's guidance often arrives in stillness, not through spectacle, but in quiet moments of prayer, worship, or reflection. Like a soft breeze that stirs the heart, these whispers from heaven are deeply personal. And just as a delicate flame must be sheltered from wind before it becomes strong enough to withstand the elements, so too must your revelations be protected while they are forming. Not every truth is meant to be spoken. Some are to be carried, some are to be pondered, and some are to be kept in silence until the Lord releases them. This is not secrecy out of fear, but reverence born of wisdom. When the prophet Jeremiah was given a word from the Lord, it came with deep responsibility. He often bore the message in loneliness, misunderstood, and rejected. Yet he continued, not because he was loud, but because he was faithful. That same faithfulness is being asked of you, to carry what is holy with integrity, not for validation from others, but in obedience to God. Ask yourself, is this something the Lord has asked me to carry quietly? Is it still being shaped by His hands? If the answer is yes, then silence may be the holiest response. As it's written in Proverbs 21:23, "Whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble." This is wisdom, not only for everyday speech, but especially for what pertains to spiritual matters. Silence can be your shield, not passive, not fearful, but deliberate. It allows space for God to work behind the scenes, to mature what He's planted, and to position you where no enemy can reach. Like a city fortified, not by noise, but by discipline and intention, your silence builds a boundary around your purpose. Consider again the image of Nehemiah, rebuilding the walls of Jerusalem not with fanfare, but with discernment. He did not announce every step, he moved with purpose, consulted God, and protected the sacred task given to him. Likewise, you are called to discern, protect, and obey. And in this season, that obedience may look like silence. The Lord is not asking you to bury your calling, He is asking you to shelter it, to guard it, to honor it. Because what He has entrusted to you is not ordinary, it is holy. And, in His time, He will unveil what now is hidden. Until then, your quiet faith is not just protection, it is alignment with heaven itself. Stay the course, keep what is sacred in the shelter of your heart. Let it grow in stillness, and let the Lord reveal it when the time is right. As we continue on this path of understanding the sacred nature of divine revelation, there's one truth every chosen one must eventually confront. Not every voice around you is sent to bless you, and not every question asked is meant to help you grow. There are moments when people seem overly interested in your life. They ask pointed questions, speak words that sound kind on the surface, yet leave a strange unrest in your spirit. These encounters, subtle though they may be, can pierce the peace God has placed within you. While some people carry genuine concern, others are driven by curiosity, comparison, or even quiet envy. This is why silence is not simply a personal boundary, it is a divine strategy. The Word says, "Even a fool is considered wise when he keeps silent. When he closes his lips, he is deemed intelligent." Proverbs 17:28. For those who carry the weight of a spiritual calling, silence becomes more than restraint, it becomes protection, discernment, and reverence in action. Picture your heart as a vault, carefully crafted by the Creator to hold dreams, revelations, and instructions that were never meant for public viewing. These treasures are not random. They were placed there by the hand of God for a purpose and for a time. And, like any sacred space, this vault is not to be left open to anyone who wanders by. The Lord calls His chosen ones to discern who has access to the depths of their spirit, not out of fear, but out of wisdom. When Jesus walked among crowds, He taught with clarity and compassion, but the deeper truths of the kingdom were reserved for those who had ears to hear and hearts prepared to carry the message forward. In Matthew 13:11, He explained to His disciples, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them." Even divine wisdom demands discernment. If you've ever shared a vision only to feel misunderstood, mocked, or drained, you are not alone. These moments are often divine lessons, reminders that your soul cannot afford to be an open book for every reader. Your calling is holy, your vision is sacred, and your silence, when chosen with purpose, is a shield. Discretion is not isolation, it is trust, trusting that God knows how to bring your vision to life without the validation of the crowd. When you keep sacred things between you and the Lord, you give them room to grow without interference, and you make space for divine clarity to lead you. King Solomon, known for his wisdom, wrote, "The tongue has the power of life and death." Proverbs 18:21. The words we speak can either preserve the sacred or expose it to unnecessary harm. There is spiritual weight in every sentence we release. When shared with the wrong hearts, those not aligned with God's purpose, our words can become invitations for resistance, distraction, or distortion. Think of how quickly a moment of joy can be overshadowed when shared with someone who doesn't carry the same faith. A spiritual breakthrough, once spoken aloud, may be met with doubt, jealousy, or subtle discouragement. This isn't paranoia, it's discernment. Not every person in your life is meant to be part of your inner circle. Some were only ever meant to observe from a distance. As you grow in your calling, begin to ask, who around me strengthens my faith? Who prays with me, not just for me? Who listens with reverence when I speak of God's leading? These are the ones who may be entrusted with even a glimpse of what God is building in you. But even then, the deepest revelations often belong in the quiet place, in the secret place with God. The psalmist David prayed, "Set a guard, O Lord, over my mouth. Keep watch over the door of my lips." Psalm 140, 1-3. He understood the weight of his words and the power they held over the course of his mission. Discerning when to speak and when to stay silent is not an easy lesson, but it is essential. Sometimes the highest form of worship is quiet obedience. Sometimes faith looks like building in silence, while the world watches nothing happen. Consider the prophet Ezekiel, who for days was instructed by God to remain silent, except when the Lord opened his mouth to speak. Ezekiel 3:26-7. His silence wasn't weakness, it was authority under divine control. And remember, silence does not mean passivity. It means focus. It means aligning with the timing and wisdom of heaven. Even when the world demands explanation, your silence can speak volumes about your trust in the one who sees the whole picture. This journey requires protection, not just from the noise of others, but from the need to prove yourself. You were not called to be understood by all, you were called to be faithful. And sometimes, faithfulness looks like holding the vision close, letting it take root in the soil of solitude, watered only by prayer. As Jesus taught in Matthew 6:6, when you pray, go into your room, close the door and pray to your Father who is unseen. Then your Father, who sees what is done in secret, will reward you. There is power in the hidden place, there is favor in the quiet path, there is purpose in the wait. So, if you feel the weight of a word not yet spoken, if you're carrying a vision that still feels fragile, know this: God sees, God knows. And God will bring it forth when the time is right, when the soil is ready, and when your heart is steady enough to carry the full bloom of what was planted in silence. After learning to guard what is sacred, the next step in spiritual maturity is learning to wait well, to honor the hidden seasons where God works in silence. This is where many chosen ones are tested, not in action, but in restraint. It's often in these quiet stretches that the temptation grows strongest to share what isn't ready, to explain what's still unfolding, or to seek reassurance from people who were never meant to carry what God placed in your heart. Have you ever shared a vision too soon, only to be met with raised eyebrows or quiet dismissal? Perhaps you've opened your heart only to be told you were dreaming too big, aiming too high, or placing too much trust in things unseen. That kind of discouragement, especially when it comes from those close to you, can cut deeply. It can make you question the very thing God confirmed to you in prayer. But here's the truth: God's promises are not diminished by others' inability to perceive them. What He whispers to you in secret carries just as much power before it is seen as when it is fulfilled. The mistake is not in having the vision, it's in thinking you need someone else to validate it. That's why the Lord often invites His chosen ones into seasons of quiet, not to hide them out of fear, but to shield the promise until it is strong enough to withstand the world. As it's written in Ecclesiastes 3:1, there is a time for everything and a season for every activity under the heavens. Your revelation has a season, your calling has a timeline. Rushing it can disrupt its purpose just as surely as neglecting it can delay its fruit. Think of Moses. Before leading Israel out of Egypt, he spent 40 years in the wilderness, not because he was disqualified, but because he was being prepared. What began as a call in his spirit needed time to be shaped by God's hand. When the moment came, it was unmistakable. He didn't have to convince anyone. God went before him. Likewise, what you carry is not just a dream, it is a divine assignment. And God, in his wisdom, has hidden it within you like a treasure in the depths of the earth, waiting for the appointed time to rise. This sacred thing, the vision, the calling, the burden, is not just protection from the adversary, it is a sign that heaven has entrusted you with something eternal. When you resist the urge to reveal it too soon, you're not withholding out of insecurity, you're honoring God's process. That restraint is faith in motion. You are declaring, I trust you, Lord, more than I trust my need to be seen or understood. And in that trust, something powerful happens. God begins to move in ways unseen. The foundations are laid, the doors are aligned, and the favor begins to gather around you, not in public, but in the quiet places where obedience grows. Your Father who sees what is done in secret will reward you. Matthew 6:6. That is not just a promise, it's a principle. The hidden work is never wasted. What is nurtured in prayer is protected by heaven's hand. In time, what is done in secret will shine without striving, because it will be God himself who brings it into the light. This is why prayer is not only your lifeline, it is your filter. When you sense the urge to share, bring it to the Lord first. Ask, is this the moment? Is this the person? Is this part of the plan you've written for me? If you receive no release in your spirit, let that silence be your answer. Isaiah 30:21 says, whether you turn to the right or to the left, your ears will hear a voice behind you, saying, this is the way, walk in it. That gentle voice is still guiding you. Trust it. It is better to hold your peace and remain in alignment than to speak prematurely and risk exposing what was meant to be guarded. To walk in divine purpose is not just to move when called, it is to wait when asked. It is to hold your secret like a precious seed in the soil, trusting that the season of bloom will come, not because you forced it, but because God appointed it. Let your silence be an act of strength, not hesitation. Let it be the soil in which miracles are planted, because what you carry is holy. And when the time is right, the world will not just hear it, they will witness it. You may have walked through the quiet ache of betrayal, the kind that comes not from enemies, but from those you once trusted with your most vulnerable hopes. Perhaps you shared a dream birthed in prayer, only to have it met with criticism, doubt, or, worse, used against you. These moments leave more than scars, they leave questions. Should I have kept that to myself? Was I wrong to trust them? But what if those moments weren't meant to break you, but to teach you? What if each disappointment was a divine lesson in spiritual discernment, a holy invitation to draw closer to the one who gave you the dream in the first place? Scripture reminds us, those who guard their lips preserve their lives, but those who speak rashly will come to ruin. Proverbs 13:3. And again, whoever keeps his mouth and his tongue keeps himself out of trouble. Proverbs 21:23. These aren't just wise sayings, they're spiritual safeguards. Because even well-meaning words, when spoken out of season, can open the door to misunderstanding, envy, or spiritual resistance. Jesus himself taught this delicate balance when he said, "Be as shrewd as serpents and as innocent as doves." Matthew 10:16. This divine tension between wisdom and purity protects the calling placed on your life. Not all silence is born of fear. Some is born of reverence. And the more sacred the calling, the more carefully it must be protected. There is a quiet authority in waiting, a grace in guarding what God is still forming. Like a gardener who does not expose fragile roots too soon, the Lord invites you to nurture in secret what is not yet ready to bloom in public. Sometimes, what feels like isolation is actually preservation. In those seasons where you feel set apart, where your phone goes quiet, your circle shrinks, or your plans are misunderstood, know this: you are not abandoned, you are being shielded. Just as the prophet Elijah found himself alone in a cave, feeling forgotten, yet was met with the still, small voice of God, 1 Kings 19:12. So too does the Lord meet his chosen ones in the quiet places. These aren't wasted seasons, they're preparation rooms for the next assignment. A hidden season is not a rejected one. It is often the most fruitful ground for transformation. And this transformation often begins with how we use our words. Words can breathe life or welcome opposition. They can strengthen a dream or expose it to harm. When you speak too soon about what God is still shaping, you risk attracting spiritual interference or feeding the insecurities of others. This isn't about fear, it's about maturity. A flower that blooms before its roots are ready may be beautiful for a moment, but it will not last. He has made everything beautiful in its time. Ecclesiastes 3:11 declares, "Timing isn't a footnote in your story, it's the very rhythm of divine fulfillment." When God gives you a promise, a calling, or a vision, He also gives you the responsibility to protect it. And this protection isn't passive, it's strategic, it's prayerful, it's patient. Think of the mother of Moses, who hid him in a basket along the Nile because she discerned that his life had divine purpose. Her wisdom preserved the one who would lead a nation to freedom. Exodus 2-3. That act of quiet protection set the stage for deliverance. In much the same way, you are being called to guard the sacred. What you carry is not ordinary, it is eternal. And like all things eternal, it demands wisdom to steward and patience to reveal. Every trial, every moment of rejection, every stretch of silence has not been in vain. These experiences are part of your preparation. They've refined your discernment, strengthened your trust, and shaped you into someone who can carry God's purpose with both humility and boldness. And now, you stand at a turning point, a deeper understanding of what it means to walk with God, not just in public, but in private. In the secret place, He strengthens your roots, He builds your foundation, and He teaches you to walk in step with His timing, not the world's expectations. Because your calling isn't just about where you're going, it's about how you get there. And part of that journey includes protecting what is sacred until it is time. So, if you feel the tension between what you know and what you're allowed to say, if you carry dreams too heavy for others to hold, know that you are not alone. This is part of the divine pattern. Even Christ moved in mystery at times, telling those He healed, "Say nothing to anyone," Mark 1:44. Not because the miracles weren't real, but because the timing mattered. And so it does with you. Let your silence become worship. Let your restraint be faith. Let your hidden season become holy ground. What you protect today will flourish tomorrow, not because you pushed it into the light, but because you let the light of God reveal it when all was ready. The secret He has entrusted to you is not just something to manage, it is something to revere. It is the proof that He sees you as trustworthy, as ready, as set apart. And in that quiet faithfulness, you are not only preserving what is holy, you are preparing the way for heaven to move through you. How many times have you felt pressure to explain yourself, to justify a decision, share a revelation, or reveal a direction you felt led to follow, simply because others expected clarity? Often, we speak not because it's time, but because we feel the weight of someone else's curiosity or expectation. But the truth is this: some things gain strength in silence, not exposure. Silence, when rooted in faith, is more than the absence of noise. It is a form of prayer, a spiritual sanctuary where God can move unhindered by our explanations or justifications. When you remain silent in the face of misunderstanding or questioning, you are not avoiding truth. You are creating sacred space for God to complete what He has started. We see this most powerfully in the example of Christ. When Jesus stood before Pilate, accused by false witnesses, mocked by those He came to save, He did not defend Himself. But Jesus made no reply, not even to a single charge, to the great amazement of the governor, Matthew 27-14. That silence wasn't weakness, it was divine strategy. His restraint allowed the Father's redemptive plan to unfold without interference. Your silence today may carry the same purpose. In spiritual realms, battles often begin with words spoken too soon, to the wrong people, in the wrong spirit. The enemy listens for what can be twisted or weaponized. But when you choose strategic silence, you seal those doors. You shift the weight of your testimony from words to obedience. Even